Everyone good? Everyone prepared?
All good, thank you.
Okay, so right.
Really?
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the UK BIM Alliance's quarterly forum for quarter one. I'm Jason Whittle from the UK BIM Alliance Communities Leadership Team. I'm here today with Duncan Reid, as we are co-chairing the leadership team for the first quarter. Before we get started, I just need to make some apologies in advance for whatever does go wrong today with this session. Unfortunately, Pam Bandel, who normally operates all the behind the scenes stuff, she's ill today, unfortunately. So Duncan and I and a few others will be manning the system from to the best of our abilities. So please bear with us if we get stuck and we have to jump around between slides. So I will just give you an overview first of all of the agenda. Firstly, we'll have a UK BIM Alliance update, which will be given by Duncan Reid.
Sorry, Jason. Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you? There's the housekeeping slide. I'm driving the slide, so we'll have to remember. You need to remember to tell me to move forward.
Sorry. Okay. So I told you this would happen. Okay. Yeah. So I'll cover that first, then I guess. So yeah. So the housekeeping stuff for the go-to webinar. If you could make sure you keep yourself in listen-only mode for the entire presentation. If you do have any questions, please use the questions tab. I'll be here all afternoon monitoring the questions tab. Ones that I can answer directly, I'll do so. And any of the questions that are for the presenters, I'll then raise them on your behalf at the end. So please use that. There's also a chat function if you do wish to say anything to the group, but mainly just keep it to the questions, please. And if you could avoid the raise hand option, don't use that today. The session will be recorded and it will be available on the UK BIM Alliance YouTube channel afterwards. Thanks, Duncan. So if you move to the is there another slide? There we go. So onto our agenda today. Firstly, we'll have Duncan Reid giving us an update from the UK BIM Alliance and all the projects and activities that we're involved in. Andy Bootle will then join us afterwards, and he'll give us feedback on the UK BIM Alliance's State of the Nation survey that you may have seen recently. After Andy, we'll have Sarah Davidson, and she will give us an update on the UK BIM Framework Guidance and also touch on the latest UK National Annex update as well. Then we have the first of our guest speakers, which is Gordon Crick. He will be joining us from the BIM for Health and Safety Group, and he'll be giving us an update on their PIR, their project information requirements, and the project what they've been doing there. Then following Gordon, there will be a presentation from Tim Kersley from Network Rail, looking at the infrastructure organisational information requirements. Finally, then we'll have our chair, Anne Kemp, will be joining us, and she'll give us the view from the chair, which will cover a range of things, including the strategic direction of the UK BIM framework and also the upcoming information management framework and other things from there. Then at the end, I'll go through any questions that you've raised during the presentation, and we'll raise those in a Q&A session. So I'll now hand over to Duncan, who is also covering for Pam. Normally Pam would be doing this part with us as well, I say, but she's unwell. So I will hand over to Duncan to start the presentation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Jason. Good afternoon, everybody. So yes, I will attempt to cover off everything that Pam would normally provide as an update. So we will go through the next slides. Right, so this is one of the main reasons for holding the quarterly forums, to give you all an update around the various activities, themes, strands, groups, all the various things that are going on within the Alliance, because it's a busy little organisation. So first up, we have patrons. So this is the group of patrons. I'm going to just let this slide build and then I can talk it through. Right, so this is now the current list of all the patrons that are supporting the Alliance. I don't believe there are any particularly new ones to report at this meeting, and there's certainly nothing highlighted on my slides. But thank you as always to all of these organisations for their support and time to help the Alliance happen. Right, next we have engagement update for affiliates. So this is now the list of affiliates that are signed up for the Alliance, and this now includes, I know a new one is definitely the Landscape Institute that has recently joined, so it's great to have them involved. And I believe there are a couple of other announcements, and apologies, I can't remember who they are. But again, thank you to all these affiliates for getting involved and ensuring that both professional bodies and trade associations are supporting the Alliance and coming with a consistent message. If you want to get involved with affiliates, then we have this little dedicated team here of John, Gary, Steve, Andrew, Gary and Nick. So they are leading on the affiliate side as the coordination between the Alliance and the various affiliate bodies. Okay, next up we have communities. So we have all the various regions that you're probably all aware of, and we now have the list on the right-hand side here of all of our active community groups. So another good, diverse and broad range of parts of the industry to cover. Lots of different activities going on, some of them with quite a few little work streams of their own, but lots of good stuff happening across these various groups. And as you can see in the bottom right, we have a team of 9 here: Nigel, Craig, Steve, Christine, myself, Hadil, Andrew, Mike and Jason, who's ably sitting with this afternoon, who are chairing the communities leadership team, and we each take it in turn between 2 of us to run one quarter of the year. So at the moment it's been Jason and myself, and we will be handing over shortly to Christine and Steve to cover for quarter 2. In terms of activities within the communities group, so we're doing some work as the team to make sure that the communities groups are avoiding duplication and having greater knowledge sharing. So we're looking at all the activities that are happening within the groups, pairing people up and pairing groups up where there's combined activities that we need to work together with. We're also making sure that the communities are working well with other parts of the Alliance. So we've been meeting recently with the affiliates leadership team, the implementation team, who'll be talking later this afternoon, and also with the Building Smart UK and Ireland chapter, who will also be presenting later this afternoon. So to make sure, again, that where there are activities within these groups and organisations, that it's in a coordinated manner with the communities and regions. We'll continue to offer virtual events for the first half of this year. We'll see what the world looks like when it comes to the second half of the year. We're looking to create a infrastructure themed event sometime in Q2 of 2021, so a celebration of all the activities around infrastructure that are going on within the Alliance. And similarly, we're then going to look at creating a series of manufacturing themed events over the course of one of the days at UK Construction Week, where the UK BIM Alliance are, I believe it is hosting one of the stages across the event that week. So those are the sort of the highlights, the key points, the big stuff that the communities is doing, but there's lots of other stuff as well, and we're always pleased to have more people involved. Next up, we have the ambassadors. This is a growing team of people. There is a long list there. I'm not actually going to try and read them all out now. But again, these are other people that have skills and knowledge and experience and are able to talk about areas of UK BIM Alliance activities. And if I move on to the second slide, I'm reliably informed by Pam the reason for this one is because we now have some sort of little synopses starting to develop against some of these ambassadors that explain what their areas of expertise and why you might want to involve them if you want to do activities, events, or want some more knowledge and information about certain areas. So again, appreciate there isn't a huge amount of time to read this all now, but as Jason said at the beginning, the event is being recorded. You can come back and view these slides with to your leisure, and then if there's something you want to follow up with, by all means use the email engagement@ukbimalliance.org, as it says on the bottom of the slide. Okay, events then. So hopefully it's not escaped your eyes that the UK BIM Framework Guidance had another round of information published in the last month or so. And so to accompany that, there is a series of webinars taking place, as it says on here, over the 14th and 15th of April. These will cover all the new revisions that have been produced and the increased information that's available, or the clarified information that's available in these guidance web updates. And then also there is going to be a BIM for Estates event, as it says, on the 14th of April. And if I clicked, I know, to the next slide, there are a few more events already scheduled for May. So BIM for Legal are doing an event around EIR templates for 4D BIM. On the 25th of May, there's going to be an infrastructure themed virtual conference. And on the 26th of May, Think BIM, the Yorkshire and Humber region, are holding an event around Green BIM, all aspects of sustainability and digital transformation. Okay, next up we have supporters. So again, another thank you. These are further businesses that are doing great work in terms of supporting the Alliance in a lot of different ways. And again, if there are organisations there that you're involved with, it's great to have you on board. If it's one of your businesses that's up there and you didn't know you were a supporter, then by all means get in touch and find out how you can help furthermore. That would be great. Okay, and on to our next slide. Right, position statements. Not sure how this is going to go. Right, okay. So the Alliance is aware that there are various areas of digital transformation, BIM, whatever we want to call it, where people have lots of different views, or there are possibly even dissenting views and confusion within the industry as to what things are. So the Alliance has decided that one of the next activities it should be doing is to create some position statements to give the UK BIM Alliance position on certain key aspects of sort of overall digital transformation. And the 4 items that have appeared here, product data, golden thread, net zero, BIM and digital twins, are the first 4 areas that the Alliance is going to look at producing papers. I believe that either the BIM and digital twins paper has been published or is very, very shortly about to be published. It may be that Casey, when he comes on to do his Building Smart update, can explain a bit more about this, but this is the first of our position statements that's being produced, and it will talk about the areas, as it says on the right hand side of the slide here, to again give that sort of overall position and understanding so that we're all working from a common position as we move forward with these new technical terms. Okay. Right, implementation. This is the moment that I believe I need to make William able to speak. William, you should now be unmuted so you can talk to your slide, but you'll need to tell me when to advance. Ooh.
I think we're just trying to get Will invited in as a presenter, Duncan. Sorry.
I've just tried to unmute him, so it should work like that, okay. But I can make him a presenter, but there's nothing for him to present. That's the problem. It's only the slide that he's talking to.
Hello.
Hello, Will.
There he is. Brilliant.
Hello.
Right.
I can't see the screen for some reason, though. But I can talk through the presentation, but I can't see the screen. But anyway,
okay.
I can. If you flick through this slide.
If I just do the animation, then right.
Yeah, okay. That's fine. Just tell me when the full slide's on.
Yes, just a second. I'm working my way through the clicks. Right. Okay. I've got a call for projects and 3 examples, but I'm sure you know this all off by heart. Thank you.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is. Thank you for that. So yeah, my name is William. I'm the co-lead, or one of the co-leads for the implementation team for the Alliance. And what we've decided to present today is what's known as a call for projects. And basically what this is it's a theme-based approach that the Alliance, or part of the Alliance, would like to pursue and encourage these related topics and projects.
Will, sorry, just to pause you a second, Duncan. I'm not seeing any slides. I think we've stopped sharing. You might just need to share back.
Right. Okay, just a second.
Apologies.
That's not a problem. Right, just a second. Right, share my screen.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Perfect.
Yeah,
sorry.
Right. Apologies. Learning on the fly.
So yeah, like I was saying, we've got some themed approaches that we wanted to pursue from projects perspective. And what this basically is to gather like-minded individuals through industry and bring them together. So if you have a project that you're interested in pursuing, then these are the themes that we would like to pursue. But going forward, obviously, we're not going to stick to these themes. If you have any other projects, we're going to obviously encourage them. So the first one being is adopted a security-minded approach. ISO 19650 Part 5, it was released last year. So we're looking for case studies, lessons learned, etc. How the tendering process, but also how Part 5 is helping alleviate risk, and does it actually create any new risks? If you have any case studies or a project around a security-minded approach, then please submit it. And then the second one there is using models and the data for cost planning, so 5D in effect. So how we can get reliable information from the models and information takeoffs, but also guidance for best practice. So if you have any reports or guidance or presentation you'd like to share on either of those two projects, then please do submit them. So if you would like to submit a project, all you do is go onto the UK BIM Alliance website. On the projects page, you can submit a form, and it's just a few questions that you can ask. And then someone from the implementation team will be in touch shortly and talk you through the project. But also, if there's other individuals that are submitting a similar project, then we'll put you in touch so we can get a nice collective together. And then going forward, then we've got some upcoming projects. So the two highlighted on the screen here, we've got one coming forward, high level guidance for information level need, and then industry roles and responsibilities and the practical implementation of 19650. And just a quick brief then, so we've currently got about eight or nine active projects working with the Alliance, and that's excluding 19650 guidance, and we continue to get regular projects. So if you'd like to get interested in any of the projects or any existing projects, then please do get in touch via the email at the bottom of the screen. And that's it from me.
Okay, right. If I can ask you to mute yourself again, then Will, and we'll move forward while I remember what to do. Right, okay. Thank you very much for all of that, Will. Great. Okay, next, recruitment. So there are two posts here that the UK BIM Alliance is looking to recruit as the work of the Alliance becomes bigger and more complex. So there is a role for an admin assistant and a role for a finance assistant. So again, the information is up here on the screen. It will be available via the recording. If this is something that you are interested in or know people that might be interested in doing these, then please share the information and get in touch via the info@ukbimalliance.org website. Email address, sorry, apologies. Right, okay. Next, I have a Building Smart update. So Casey, I need to unmute you. Just a second. Okay, over to you, Casey.
Thank you. I'm muted. Could you make me a presenter as well, please?
Ooh, yeah.
Right click and make me a presenter.
Yeah, I'm doing it. Just give me a chance.
Every little helps. Okay, hopefully everyone can see my screen. Just a very brief update from Building Smart UK and Ireland, what's gone on this quarter. Personally, I think everyone's had a very busy quarter in their day jobs. So in terms of updates of the rooms, I was really quite surprised at how much had been going on this quarter. So if you take a look at the recordings that will be available soon on the YouTube channel, on the UK BIM Alliance YouTube channel, you'll get to see the Assemble event, the fully Assemble event from this morning. But in terms of a brief overview, we always do this. We always reinforce our 4 V's, not in any particular detail today in this update, but we do intend on being vast, vibrant, vital, and valuable. And we've got some keywords beneath those to make people aware of what they were. Ultimately, the UK BIM Alliance and Building Smart UK and Ireland are here to serve you, the industry, in terms of your needs for digital transformation, but also specifically with Building Smart UK and Ireland, it's to do with open BIM, open data, IFC, and exchanging data and interoperability. So if you do have anything that you want to speak to us about, or you're interested to learn more about, just get in touch with any of us through any of the usual UK BIM Alliance channels or Bazooki channels. Again, I need to say thank you to all of the committee members that we have. Additionally, I'd like to say a welcome to Nicoletta, who's joined us as a committee member just last month. So we are growing as a committee, as well as people adding value to the various different rooms and projects that we're doing. We have, for the first part of this year, been going through an exercise to plan our yearly targets for 2021, our route map for what we want to achieve, and that applies to all of the rooms, but also all of the streams that we have within Building Smart UK and Ireland. So that's to do with education, it's to do with membership, it's to do with how we operate and how we connect with international, and how we present and make things available to the industry. So we have lots of nice things that you'll see kicking off in April. One of those being more integration with the UK BIM Alliance Communities group that Duncan mentioned earlier. And that work is already underway. Some good news, the International Infrastructure Room Steering Committee held elections, and we've just had Phil Jackson re-elected for his position. And also Marek from our committee also being introduced into that group as well. So we have 2 UK and Ireland representatives in that steering committee at a global level, alongside the people you can see on screen right now. So it's really quite good. It was really felt that Phil had done such a great job being part of that team already, that it was absolutely worthy of being re-nominated. And Marek also brings his experience in working with the infrastructure and the rail groups in various different rooms. So yep, 2 members in the infrastructure steering committee now. More updates relating to the Building Smart program itself. The awards are now open. So this year's awards is open, I think it was open from the 15th. The deadline is the 23rd of May. So the categories are down there in their overall categories in red and the subcategories in blue. It's a really great opportunity to, if you are working with Open BIM or interoperability challenges using IFC, absolutely do submit your projects. The committee in the UK and Ireland and all the chapters around the world have such a huge task judging all of the entries. There are massive numbers of entries, but it's such a valuable task to see the work that's going on, see all the great work that is being done day to day in real world conditions. So it's really quite useful to see. And speaking of which, if you want to see the winners of last year, the Building Smart Awards yearbook for 2020 is now available on the website. If you just go to Building Smart website and go to the awards, you can drop down the menu and click on this year's yearbook. Really great case studies of all the projects and their submissions and why they won. So take a look at that. Just another final announcement, Siemens and Esri have both joined Building Smart International as multinational members and ticked the UK and Ireland box. So we're already in discussion with Esri. We've had a meeting with them already, and we're just about to queue up one with Siemens to find out what and how they can get involved with the UK and Ireland chapter. So all in all, a really busy first quarter. Really looking forward to getting cracking. And to address Duncan's question earlier about the BIM and digital twins positioning statements, it is in the final draft stage, so just waiting for a couple of corrections from me, and then we can release that as soon as we can. That's me done.
Thank you very much, Casey. Right, I'm going to go back to me. So can everybody now see the Building Smart screen again? Hopefully so.
Yeah, we can.
So I'm going to move on then to the Andy Bootle introduction slide for UK BIM Alliance State of the Nation survey. I will say no more. I will not take your thunder, but I will make you presenter.
Thank you, Duncan. Hopefully, just let me know you can see my screen okay.
Cannot yet in presentation mode, but it's getting there.
Okay.
I think there's just a slight delay. But
there we go. Does that? Let me try that again.
Something's happening, but not quite.
says I'm showing my screen, so I'm not sure what's. Let me just go to presenter mode and see if that kicks it in.
There you go. That's
Yes, you're in now. Thank you.
We're in. Brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. So I'm just going to take you through the first results and analysis from our the UK BIM Alliance State of the Nation survey. So this is our first year this year, and the survey went live at the start of January, and we closed it off towards the end of February. In an effort to, and we appreciate there's a few BIM surveys out there, and we're not trying to compete with that, but you know, it'd be silly of us as the UK BIM Alliance not to try and measure progress and understanding as we roll through the years. So this is very much an annual survey. We're going to repeat it year on year and hopefully start to pull out trends and analysis for us to react to as an alliance, but also measure how we get on as a UK industry. So let me just, why is my click not working? Bear with me. There we go. Firstly, just a quick thanks to the organisations you can see there. So they, you know, what we wanted to do with this survey was to really try and get a good representation across discipline, across roles and functions of the industry. So the organisations there actually helped us directly promote the survey with individual links, and they actually brought back completions. So a number of those organisations you'll recognise as our affiliates, as well as some of our supporters and otherwise. So, so a quick thanks to those organisations. Before I get on to headlines, and again, I suppose thanks to many of you on the call will have completed this survey and contributed to it. So thanks to everyone there. It was important for us to actually provide a definition of BIM at the start of the survey, and we of course use the well, we used the one out of 19650 part 1, as you can see there, just so people were responding with, there's many different interpretations of what BIM is, but let's provide a definition for people to go on. And as I mentioned, it's going to be an annual survey, and we did use a company, AMA Research, to help commission the survey with their database alongside it. So some of the headlines to come out, and I'll go over this in more detail as we walk through the slides, but we had just short of 1,200 responses, which is pretty good going for the first survey, I think. And the important part there is actually it spanned 25 organisational roles, functions, or disciplines, as you might want to call them. Out of that total, 65% said their organisations are currently implementing BIM. And in terms of the top responses, we can see architecture, main contracting, and again, a really important one we thought was clients and asset owners were the top 3 in terms of responses. No surprises, difficulty of cultural behavioural change is seen as one of the main barriers to implementing BIM. And then at the bottom there, 89% of respondents feel that BIM is significant to their role, which is encouraging, I think. So in terms of the profile of the respondents, so we asked a few questions to start with. So what size of organisation do you work for? And we can see there the 40%, the majority, were from medium-sized organisations, then large, but then we've got quite good representation from micro and SMEs as well, which is encouraging. England were the biggest respondents in terms of geography, and interestingly, we had 12% outside of the UK. But again, we've got fairly good representation across the home nations. So this is a bit more detail in terms of the organisational role function of respondees, and as you can see there, there's our top 3: architecture, main contracting, and client asset owner. The other one I wanted to pull out, I was quite pleased to see, was subcontracting. We've got a really good response there. And then walking down the list a little bit, manufacturing as well, we've got quite a good response rate, which is encouraging. Some of the other ones in the call out there to the right, 7 trade suppliers and a few other of the lesser known or common disciplines you'd expect. So again, the important thing there, I think, is we're really interested in getting a cross-cutting breadth of industry, not just total numbers. So moving on to the key findings. Is your organisation aware of and implementing BIM? So we had 65% of the respondees aware of and implementing, and actually 30% aware but not yet implementing. So add that up, 95% are aware, which is good. Interesting that 5% are unaware and doing a BIM survey, but hopefully they're now all aware. And then of that 65% aware and implement, and this is a surprising one for me, 39% of projects commissions are are over three quarters are implementing BIM in that organisation, which is quite a interesting one there, more than I'd expect. Moving through, so which, if any of the information management BIM standards does your organisation use and base internal processes around? So again, encouraging and slightly surprising, because it's still relatively new. 19650 series is the highest, and of course this is a multiple select question. BS PAS 1192 of course is still high, and still plenty of legacy projects working to those standards, but then nicely company internal BIM policies and standards are aligned to some of those, with 8% actually having standards that don't align to any industry ones. Soft landings, there's obviously a bit of work to do there as an industry. Okay, so this one was important to us to understand where people are going to find out information on BIM. And again, I think the fact that it was a UK BIM Alliance survey may have swayed that, and we weren't looking to give ourselves a pat on the back by any stretch of the imagination there. But I think the important thing this slide tells us is that the internet search, right third up from the bottom, is really low. So people aren't just randomly internet searching BIM. There's places that you can go to find out up-to-date messaging and information, and it's encouraging to see all of that top list there being used for that. What are the main potential benefits? So I don't think there's any surprises on this slide. The top three there, we'd probably all pretty much agree on. And there's further analysis that we'll publish down stream of this that will show you various comparisons between questions. But as you'd expect to see there in terms of benefits, and as I mentioned in the summary, difficulty in cultural behavioural changes is still seen as the top barrier. Closely followed by lack of client demand and training upskilling, which is again we're acutely aware of as an alliance and an industry, I think. So do you think BIM will become business as usual, whatever that means? And we deliberately didn't define what that means. Let's see what people go with for the way your organisation works. So 37% think it will be. But out of that 37%, the majority think it will be between 3 to 5 years. Interestingly, 32% think it already is business as usual in their organisations. 40% don't know, and 70% don't think it will ever become. We asked the same question in terms of the actual wider built environment. Again, big majority think it will be, but again, 46% of that majority think that it will be 3 to 5 years typically, and some perhaps longer. And interestingly, 10% think it is already business as usual. But there we go. Okay, topical one. So is BIM becoming business as usual critical to building the foundations for digital twins? And again, the interesting one there is the 16% think it isn't. A big proportion don't know. And this probably links back to Casey's mention of a UK BIM Alliance positioning paper on digital twins, and certainly the recommendation is that BIM according to ISO 19650 series should form the foundation of a digital twin if best practice. Okay, this again a really important one. How relevant do you feel BIM is to your role? Quite encouraging that the majority think it's extremely relevant and even somewhat relevant. If you add those twos up, it's quite a big proportion there. But again, the really interesting stuff for us to look at is that, well, 11% don't think it's relevant at all. Not part of a role or function, too difficult, market demand, lack of awareness. So there's some things to unpick there for us. So I just wanted, so that's the base analysis, and there's some initial analysis here. I just wanted to go through to pick up. So this is where we pitch two questions against each other to sort of pull out the analytics and trends. So primary project role or function versus is your organisation aware of and implementing BIM? The numbers in brackets are the totals of respondents under each discipline or role function. And again, the trends to pull out there probably is aware and implementing. Obviously, architecture, main contracting doing very well. Structural engineering, multidisciplinary consulting. And the ones doing less well, really interesting again, is subcontracting. Or less mature on their journey. 51% aware but not yet implementing, and actually 11% think completely unaware. So that again, there's some work to do down the supply chain there, I think. And then another cross analysis, so size of organisation versus aware and implementing. And again, this is probably just this confirms what most of us already know, I think, isn't it? In terms of, you know, the most mature are large organisations, and then it sort of scales back as you go down to smaller organisations. And then this last one, again, that your organisation's primary role function versus how relevant do you feel BIM is to your role. And again, the red there, looking at the red immediately hits me. Again, subcontracting, 32% think it's not relevant, which is quite a shocking stat there that definitely needs some attention. Topographical surveying and landscape architecture are also quite high in the not relevant. And as you'd expect, the information management BIM consulting are absolutely on with it. Of course, that's their role and function. So that's a quick snapshot and a walk through the survey. We will be publishing the full results on the website following this in April, and also there will be a report produced and shared as well downstream. So I will hand back to you, Duncan. Hopefully that was useful.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Right, okay, and again, in proper relay fashion, I'm now going to hand over to Sarah Davidson, who's going to give us an update on the BIM Framework Guidance. So I will make you a presenter, Sarah.
Thank you, Duncan.
And we can hear you loud and clear as well.
Fabulous. Are you seeing my screen that says connected to GoToWebinar?
We can see that screen, yes.
Right, okay, just give me a moment then. Let me get
Absolutely.
Okay. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, you're in presentation mode. We're all sorted. Right. Thank you.
Excellent. Right, hello everybody, and thank you for joining in on this lovely sunny day. I'm just going to give you a quick update about the ISO 19650 guidance. So courtesy of Andy Bootle, I've slipped this sneaky slide in. Thank you, Andy, just to give an overview of the recent years of how we've moved on as an industry. So the ISO 19650 suite, the first two standards were released in December 2018. Prior to then, we'd all been talking about BIM Level 2. But since December 2018, we've transitioned gradually to the UK BIM Framework. And if you've seen the construction playbook, which was launched in December 2020, it was really great to see the UK BIM Framework mentioned frequently throughout the construction playbook. So really emphasizing the adoption of the standards for the public sector. Now, of course, the standards tell us what we need to do, but not how to go about those things. So the guidance has been developed to support the adoption of the standards. It's been evolving since its first issue in 2019, and the latest update was released on the 19th of February 2021. And that was to coincide with the release of the 2021 National Annex. So the guidance series currently comprises parts 1, 2 and 3 and parts A to F. Part 1 covers the concepts, and parts 2 and 3 are specific to ISO 19650 Part 2 and to ISO 19650 Part 3. Guidance A to F covers themes that span all standards. Now, guidance to support ISO 19650 Part 5 is available through the CPNI website, but we are considering the development of additional guidance, and as Will mentioned, we're also looking to develop projects around ISO 19650 Part 5. So I would really urge you to respond to that call for projects around ISO 19650 Part 5 and a security-minded approach. ISO 19650 Part 4 is in development, and guidance about that will be considered once we have more of an understanding of the release programme for Part 4. So as well as those guidance documents, the UK BIM Framework contains other resources And if you go on to UK BIM Framework I think it actually should be .org, so sorry about that. You will see those are the resources, including the information protocol template. There's a line of sight video explaining about the information requirements, and there's also a database example of information requirements and a scope of services matrix, which I'm going to touch upon in a minute. So just talking through the guidance and what the updates to that guidance have been. So the main update to guidance part 2 was to accommodate the changes brought about by the release of the 2021 National Annex. It explains what the changes are compared to the 2018 National Annex, and it covers the impacts of the changes, and it looks at them from both a positive perspective, but also picking up the things that you might need to consider if you are moving from 2018 to 2021. Now, it explains the implementation of the National Annex during that first process of assessment and need, and the activities to do with the remainder of the delivery phase, so the tendering and the collaborative production of information, the sharing of information, and the authorization and acceptance of it. That's going to be covered in the next release of the guidance. So there was a question in the chat just asking about that. So that will come out in the next release of guidance that will be published later this year. Now, what I would also like to point out is that if you've checked the 2021 National Annex, you'll see that that it directly refers to the Uniclass project management table. There's been quite a significant change to the form field within the unique ID. So the other thing to let you know about is that Uniclass 2015, the forms of information table, is being updated to align with the 2021 National Annex. And the project management table, which is directly referenced now, a review of that is underway. So moving on to guidance to support ISO 19650 Part 3, that was first released in September to support the release of the standard itself. And we wanted to make sure we got guidance out very quickly. But we've this latest release of guidance, which was led by David Churcher, it's undergone significant development, and it now offers comprehensive coverage of the recommendations and requirements of the standard. And if you go onto the UK BIM website, BIM Framework website, and look at that guidance, you'll see at the end of it that there's a process map very similar to the one that's contained in guidance part 2. But in addition to this, we have developed a much more detailed, comprehensive process map, and that is available to you on the website. There is still more work to do around trigger events and transition of information into the asset information model, and the authoring team is progressing work on that now. And the other thing that we need to do is update the rest of the guidance documents so that they properly reflect the requirements of ISO 19650 Part 3. Now, we addressed guidance D, which is information requirements. So that is up to date, but we need to systematically work through the other guidance documents as well. So that is in hand. Guidance Part A covers the information management function and resources, and that was updated this time to include a new section referencing the information management assignment matrix. So that was the tool that I mentioned is available as a separate resource. Now you can get that by the UK BIM Framework website, and you can access it in a database format or a Word format or an Excel format. And what it does is it sets out the activities that need to be completed to deliver the information management function. So that's whether you're doing that on behalf of a client or another party, and it enables, and it's going to be followed later this year by a scope of services. So it'd be really great to get your feedback about how you're using that tool, and if you believe that it's, or if you can see things that are perhaps missing from it. So please do engage with that and let us know how you're going on. ISO 19650 Guidance Part E, which covers tendering and appointments, has now got 2 additional sections of content. The first section covers the information protocol and how to go about populating the information protocol template. Now that guidance is also available as a separate download, and I'm just going to touch upon that in a moment. Also in Guidance E, we've got content about the information standard, and the information standard sits sort of hand in hand with the information production methods and procedures, and we'll be releasing content guidance about the information production methods and procedures in the next release or the next update. And what I would say around the next update is that we are sort of aiming for the summer. That there is quite a lot of work to do, but we're on with it now. So I think I'll be updating you in the next quarter, but set your expectations for around the summer. The information protocol is now in its third release. What I would say to you is don't panic around that, because the updates in the second release and this third release are extremely minor. But because it is a contractual document, we do have to identify those as formal releases. So don't panic. There are no significant changes to the protocol itself. So what we have done is introduce some content around the security-minded provision. Now, if you were familiar with editions 1 and 2 of the protocol, it did include a short bit of guidance. Now that guidance has been pulled out and it sits in guidance document E and as this separate downloadable guidance. It's gone into much more detail now. And so it does 2 things really. It explains more about the purpose of the information protocol, but it also takes you through population of it, and it really tries to emphasize the information protocol is only as effective as the resources sitting behind it, and equally the resources sitting behind it have to work with an effective information protocol. So the 2 things have to go hand in hand. So you can't sort of rely on the information protocol to maybe overcome some shortfalls in the resources. They've both got to be extremely robust. Now this information protocol template supports ISO 19650 Part 2. A template is being developed to support the implementation of ISO 19650 Part 3, and again we're looking for release of that in the summer. So just to, on my final slide then, to wrap up, as Duncan mentioned earlier, there are going to be a series of webinars, I think it's the 14th and 15th of April, taking you through some of the updates, but also if you're new to the guidance, they'll do a reflection over the content generally. So I'd really encourage you to register for those webinars, and there'll be an opportunity to speak to the authors so that you can sort of really quiz them if there's something that you're unsure about or you feel needs exploring further. So the summary of content in development, we've got to update Part 2 to cover the implementation phase of the 2021 National Annex, Part 3 to explore trigger events further and transition into the asset information model. Now both of those things are already covered in Part 3, so don't feel that you have to wait, it's just that we want to look into them in more depth. Part B may be updated to cover more guidance around COBie. We just need to make sure that we don't sort of anticipate something that might be coming out of guidance part of ISO 19650 Part 4. So there's a little bit of planning to do around that. Part C will definitely be updated to bring in board to reference the 2021 National Annex, so that if you're familiar with Part C, you'll know that it takes you through a piece of information, its journey, so all of that's going to be amended. In part D, and I think you're going to be hearing from Gordon Crick in a few minutes, we're working with Gordon to develop information requirements examples focused on health and safety, and they will also be released. Part E, I said we want to update that to include new content around the information production methods and procedures, but also we just want to reflect on the content that we've got in around the BIM execution plan to see if we want to provide any more detail to sit behind that. And then part F, we're going to be looking at federation and work breakdown structures. We want to, so yes, I've mentioned about updates for ISO 19650 Part 3 generally. We're also just going to take the opportunity to review the Part 1 concepts guidance, which I think the last update for that was 2019. There'll be the information protocol to support Part 3 and a scope of services to support the information management assignment matrix. Now, what I would just like to finish on is that don't sort of hold back on using the guidance. The content that we're developing is adding depth and breadth, if you like. It's not changing anything that we're already saying. So please do take a look at the guidance, and of course, if you have any feedback, do let us know. All of the guidance documents have links to let us know about feedback that you might have. And that's me done. Thank you, Duncan.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Right, so I will take back control briefly. And okay, so first keynote presentation, special visitor presentation, whatever we can call it. We're very pleased to have Gordon Crick, who is representing the BIM for Health and Safety group, and he's going to present to us, as it says here, on improving health and safety by focusing on project information requirements. Right, now I can see that you are now a panelist, Gordon. I've unmuted you and I'm going to make you a presenter. So we'll let you know when it's all up and running. Can you hear us, Gordon?
I can hear you, yes.
Right, good.
Can you see my screen?
Not yet, no.
Does it come up? Show your screen?
Not yet.
There we go.
We've got it now, but it's in your presenter mode rather than presentation mode, so we can see your next slide as well. I think you need to click on display settings, if I remember rightly, and so somebody else is going to jump in and tell me how to do this.
Display settings and then that one, swap.
Could be. Yeah.
Perfect.
Brilliant. I can do IT support as well now. Right, brilliant, Gordon. We have you with sound, we have you with picture. I will shut up and let you carry on. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I hope I can make this work. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for inviting me to talk to you. So I'm representing the Health and Safety Executive, the BIM for Health and Safety Working Group, which I chair, is part of the UK BIM Alliance, and we've been running since about 2015 as a working group trying to bring together the worlds of health and safety and BIM. And I'm part of construction division, so clearly construction is the focus. And the presentation this afternoon, using project information requirements to improve health and safety. And this is what I want to unpack today. So, second slide is a video. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to play this as a video or whether I just have to talk to it. But to tell you the story, really, this slide, HSE isn't known for its models and BIM modeling capacity, but this is a model which was produced by our image scientists for a court case, and it just usefully sums up some thoughts to me about why BIM is important to us. Because what this is a fairly routine barn conversion that turned into a disaster. That gable end wall collapsed, and 2 workers were killed in the incident. Now, we produced this model for the court case, the subsequent court case, and the idea was to be able to communicate clearly to the jurors, 12 good men and true, what happened. And it was a communication tool. And I've used this a few times because it demonstrates to me something really interesting, is that we use this as the communication tool, but how much better it is to model the information before the event and use the power of this visualization technology to get messages to the right people and the right place at the right time. Now, the interesting thing about this particular project is that at the beginning of the project, surveys were done, professionals were employed, engineers surveyed this gable wall and found certain real fatal weaknesses with it, void space underneath, for example. But the project went on and still progressed to a point where the wall was undermined completely on the inside and fell down. Interestingly, our modelling had physics in it, if you like. It followed the fall of the wall, and we were able to show why the wall ended up in the position it did, and the trajectory of it. So that's very much a story of using modelling after the event, but it's left me with a real sense of passion about trying to build risk into modelling before the event, because it's actually going to save lives. Getting the right information to the right person at the right time in a construction project is absolutely vital, and that information is most often created, discovered, surfaced during the design process and needs to be fed forward. So it's not just a picture case of visualizations, and with health and safety, it's very often the text information as well. It's the attribute information which goes with a risk, the information which people put in about judgments, which we're trying to learn how to integrate into models. So that's just a sort of introductory slide. Stop. Right. So that's my introductory slide, if you like, just to give you a sense of how important I think this is. So coming back to the question of the project information requirements, the BIM for Health and Safety Working Group created some guidance for clients back in 2018. And I have to say that our focus has tended to be on the clients, working from the head of the project, working with designers, trying to make sure that the right information is created, that pre-construction information is adequate, that risks are covered, that foresight is exercised by designers in the right way at the right time. Now, in this little piece of guidance for the clients, we put these words in. We talked about things that we thought were important at the time for a client. So to know about temporary works information, clash detection is such an important technique which BIM enables, but it's got so much more potential than it's often used for, to begin to look at how activities interact with workers, the public, and so on. So there's a lot of work, I think, which we can usefully do to develop health and safety and improve things so much more using these technologies. And the idea of reviews as opportunities for improving risk management are really significant. We actually see there's two really important reviews, one right at the beginning of the design phase, which would say a preliminary hazard analysis and safety review, and one just before construction starts, which is a constructability review. But those two reviews are key points when you can actually check that things are right, and you can actually also bring a step change in the quality of risk information that's fed forward. So those reviews are really important points. Now, if you fast forward to 2020, last year, the text I've got there in red, just 3 things we were looking at the beginning of last year, 3 discussions that we were having. One was the reports we're getting from clients who are struggling to achieve the requirements that delivered improvements in health and safety. So clients were looking at what we were saying about health and safety and saying, well, we want better health and safety outcomes from our BIM investment, but we're not sure how to require that. And all too often, when clients felt they'd put a sensible requirement forward, it seemed to get lost. And certainly, from my position as with health and safety, I find it quite hard to see how health and safety modelling, health and safety visualizations were being informed in a structured way in EIRs, as they were employers' information requirements. The other element of this is we know that many of the issues around health and safety that are really troublesome, and we can think of temporary works, you think of fire safety, you can think of asbestos, you can think of lifting operations as being risk topics where quite often the information is not well coordinated with the prominent works designs and sometimes with BIM models. So we were looking for a tool, a way forward to bring these things together and improve. And I suppose you'd have to say that we did, when I first looked at ISO 19650, the guidance, and I saw this emphasis on project information requirements, and I must admit, a light bulb went off and I thought, a gleam in my eye. I thought we can use the concept of a project information requirement. The CDM regulation, the CDM is all about projects, it's all about the project. And CDM, of course, takes information from an asset or from pre-project information, and it delivers information into the operational phase. But CDM, we're so used as construction inspectors, we focus on CDM, we focus on the project. What the PIRs and the way they're portrayed in the ISO give us some really good opportunities, and these big points I'm making here, I think, is beginning to see construction much more as an episode in the life cycle of an asset. So beginning to see how we can integrate CDM information much better with the operational phase, feeding information into a project at the beginning and handing it over at the end, doing that much better if requirements are integrated. The project information requirements also give us a new way of restating CDM to a point, so we can actually make more specific requirements around what should be in pre-construction information, what should be in a construction phase plan, what should be in a health and safety file. And so these can really help us in that way. Because project information requirements sit at the head of a project, and they should, in a sense, direct each appointed party. It gives us a chance to put things in which will integrate information between risk disciplines. So we see the project information requirements as being a tool which can help us integrate risk topics and risk disciplines. And the final point there, another big one for us really, is we are trying to work with the industry to develop the principal designer role to the point where that principal designer is the person who is in control and coordinates health and safety information in the pre-construction phase. And good project information requirements, of which the PD principal designer is a part, are potentially a massive benefit. So these, we think, a focus on PIRs will bring us these benefits. So taking this forward to the next step, I just want to give you a sneak preview of what we are planning to. Sarah was very kind mentioning that we are hoping to inject some examples into the annex of the BIM UK Framework Annex D. So I just wanted to give you an idea of what we're thinking really here. How will this work? So what we're suggesting is that the PIR will be derived and informed from the organizational information requirements. And interestingly, I see quite a strong link between organizational information requirements and our own requirements for an employer's health and safety policy. And in fact, a good health and safety policy with its arrangements underneath it will actually set out quite clearly what a lot of organizational information requirements might be for a large client, for any large organization. So for example, in this particular, we've taken one PIR, we've written a suite of 19 project information requirements which express to us PAS 1192 Part 6, which I haven't yet mentioned, but PAS 1192 Part 6 is our health and safety specification for collaboration, sharing and use of structured health and safety information using BIM. It is still extant. It's the only bit of the PAS 1192 series, I think, left, but we are making arrangements now with the BSI committees to turn that into an ISO. So we're hoping in 3 years' time we'll have an ISO Part 6. At the moment, we have PAS 1192 Part 6, and these PIRs give us an opportunity to show how this works in the ISO 19650 world. So we've developed a suite of 19 PIRs which express or state or summarize somehow the requirements of PAS 1192 Part 6. And one of these is expressed in the green text at the bottom of the slide. So the simple statement, maintain a tabulated list of all service providers and suppliers, is one of our project information requirements which we set out. Now, we've tended to write these in quite long text, so that's in the style of having a headline requirement and then a purpose statement underneath. When we drafted these initially, we had quite long statements because we were very much at pains to try and explain why that requirement existed. As things have matured, we've realized we can actually summarize these effectively. So that's our project information requirement, which we believe can be set at the head of the project and will guide information requirement. Now, if you link this upwards, we'd link it to the organizational information requirement. We've given an example of what a company might have or a business might have as an organizational information requirement, and simply to comply with health and safety legislation. And we would imagine for something like this that we would have a mirror asset information requirement, so that the asset information requirement would require updated details of safety-related service providers to be recorded in a standardized way to enable rapid identification and retrieval of that information in response to a trigger event. And of course, a project would be a classic trigger event, I guess, which will require information to be fed into a new project and also handed over at the end. So in that way, we're trying to establish a very clear link with the PIR, the OIR, the AIR, and crucially, coming on to the EIR, the Exchange Information Requirement. So the concept we have here, and I'm indebted to Dan Rossiter for this diagram, I have to say, but the concept is quite straightforward really, is that we can take a statement of a PIR and with some additional information, it becomes something like what you would expect an Exchange Information Requirement to have. So in ISO terms, those clauses 521B, 521C, 521D specify the extra information that's perhaps needed to turn that statement into something like an Exchange Information Requirement. So we're not trying to say that there's a one-to-one relationship between PIRs and EIRs, or even that there's a straightforward relationship in words, but I think there needs to be a relationship in purpose. So the PIR sets out the purpose, the key purpose, and the EIR should provide the chapter and verse, the detail on exactly how that is delivered. Now, I'm explaining this as a health and safety person, you will understand, and I am absolutely not a BIM expert. So you're getting from me, just this is the way I see it from our health and safety world. This is explaining it in the way that makes sense to me. And I've tried to go a little bit further and try and just give some examples from the health and safety world of the kind of information that you might include. Now, it's interestingly also the ISO 19650 has a requirement for information standard. So it would be quite straightforward for an information standard belonging to a client or to a appointing party to actually set out the standards of level of information need, acceptance criteria, supporting information, key dates, etc., which might be necessary, which you might need to establish the EIR. So this is I guess, our vision for how we see this working and we hope that this will be useful for the industry. Just coming on to, I think this is my final slide. This is just to explain what we've done is we've created a suite of PIRs, as I explained, which express PAS 1192 Part 6. But we've then gone further than that, and working with some organisations in the industry and working with our own specialists inside HSE, we've looked at asbestos design risk, structural safety, temporary works, lifting operations, and fire safety design. And we've come up with PIRs, suites of PIRs, which also reflect those information requirements in those risk topic areas. And so we've been working with a range of stakeholders and a range of bodies to try and make sure that these are sensible and will achieve the purpose that we want to. So that's my presentation. I think I've said enough. I hope that's fairly clear, and I hope it's given a reasonable picture of where we really would like to take these PIRs and how we've arrived at the place where we are at the moment.
Okay.
Is it as simple as handing back to you, Duncan?
No, that was brilliant. Thank you very much, Gordon. No, I think that was very well talked through, of explaining the context and the circumstances, and then how it all ties in. And I think it will be an important piece to the jigsaw of incorporating digital health and safety, or whatever phrase we want to use. So thank you very much for that. As Gordon said, they are looking to incorporate this into the UK BIM Framework Guidance. It will be added to Part D of the UK BIM Framework Guidance in due course. And there's a lot of interesting stuff going on with this group. So thank you very much for your time this afternoon, and thank you very much for explaining that, I think, very clearly for everybody. So I will take back control and we will move on to our next speaker. Okay, right, I will just do that right. Okay, so not least, having gone through our very steep learning curve of working out how to use GoToWebinar on the fly for live, our next presenter is actually through the medium of video. So hopefully this is going to work as well. So I'll give you a little bit of context and then hopefully hit play and it will all work wonderfully. So the title of the presentation is Strategic Thinking, Looking at the Bigger Picture from an Infrastructure Organisation Perspective. The presentation is from a gentleman called Tim Kersley, who is the Head of Asset Management Strategy at Network Rail. This presentation was first aired at the Building Smart Virtual Conference the week before last. It was their global conference, over 1,000 delegates online over the course of 2 weeks. And Tim gave this as one of the keynote presentations, and we're very pleased that Tim was happy to share this, and for Network Rail to agree to it, and for Building Smart International, for that matter, to agree to the sharing of the content that was provided. So having said all of that, I now hope that the content will actually work. So let's go with upload. Okay. Right.
Good morning. I'm Tim Kersley from Network Rail, and today I'll be giving an infrastructure organisation's perspective on some big picture issues surrounding digital workflow.
Duncan, I think what you have to do when you're sharing the screen, there's an option for you to share the video, the audio as well. But you have to share the audio as well, otherwise we won't hear what Tim is saying.
I could hear the audio.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
The context of our infrastructure, how we're approaching asset management, and the implications for data and information that brings. I'll also be looking at what we intended to do in improving this over a period of about the last 10 years.
Can people hear okay? Can the presenters tell me?
On data completeness and quality,
Yeah, fine, good.
and some of the benefits
that
that's starting to help generate for us. Along that way, I'll also be giving some headlines of challenges that we've faced. So towards the end there, we can talk about key learning and reveal other barriers and considerations that really need to be taken into account if you're planning a similar journey. So the background. Network Rail is a UK operator of rail infrastructure. The modern equivalent value of our infrastructure is around £500 billion UK currency. It's one of the oldest railways in the world, and we've got a very diverse asset base. Broken down here are some of the constituent parts, against which we spend around £3.5 billion a year replacing and renewing parts of this network. That only, though, is about 0.7% of its value, and clearly just eliciting new data on that construction would take around 130 years to fully populate updated, current, accurate data sets for us. An additional challenge about managing a railway such as this is just its size and complexity. And to make sense on that, we've subdivided into specific disciplines surrounding the assets described above, but we've also got regional building blocks within our business. So we've got a route and a region structure of 44,000 people in all. So later on, I'm going to be talking about some of the challenges that introduces when trying to go on this data journey. But why, might you ask, is this so important to us? Well, corporately, we're not just about managing and putting forward that infrastructure. Of course, we want to deliver safe and reliable train services from it. But equally, we need to do that in a financially sustainable way, delight our customers, contribute very significantly towards sustainable development challenges around carbon reduction, resilience, biodiversity, and also help our people and the development of our people in the way that we carry out our business. The shot here is of a bridge in Scotland. I joined Network Rail in late 2008 as head of structures. 55 days later, this happened. For the first time since 1876, a bridge actually collapsed under a freight train without being washed away by a tempest. When we investigated that, you'll not be surprised to learn there was historical information and there were other early indicators that should have prevented that from happening. And really the challenge here is about how we take that learning, reveal so much more about our legacy infrastructure, and allow us not just to deliver safe and reliable performance from it, but those other outcomes as well. To do that, we apply asset management thinking. Now, sometimes there can be some confusion around this subject. People apply the thinking that it's managing the assets, which of course it is. We really need to be expert at managing the assets through their life cycle, delivering those reliable and safe capabilities. We need to manage condition as we go, find new ways to achieve extension of life safely from that infrastructure and reduce the cost of its replacement. To do that, we work hard on the people and the skills management that are required, equipping our frontline staff in particular with particular capabilities to carry out their challenges. And naturally, we use a lot of information to do that. We have a lot of key performance indicators, cost data, and performance metrics. But we're interested in far more than that. We really want to deliver, as I said at the top of the presentation, added value, real long-term outcomes of benefit to society, and to understand how we do that in the context of emerging risks, whether that's financial risks, post-COVID, or climate change and adaptation risks. So it's becoming increasingly important for us to align our data and information around our decision making, make that visible and accessible to all, to support not just the assets, not just the infrastructure system, but those broader societal outcomes. When you look at those considerations, the asset, the systems and the societal challenges, you find that different user communities within the business have a different take on actually what they need from this information. From a maintenance and operations point of view, we're really interested in visualizing what we've got, what that means around the work site, where those assets are that we need to go and service and contend with. From a projects perspective, particularly where we're renewing parts of that, we want really good information on the existing assets. Our asset management team that are planning all of that endeavour want to really know what the trade-offs are and how they can optimise that work pain across various assets. Our engineering teams, and certainly our chief engineer, wants to know how well we're doing about applying our standards, whether we're controlling those risks by design, what else we can do to safeguard our challenges. Our financial colleagues are forever looking at return and investment value. What's the information telling us about where there's new opportunity? I mentioned earlier about life extension. I'll come on to that later. It's a big issue for us. Our regulators, they're really keen on how are we going to keep this going in the long term? What do those longer term patterns of investment look like? How can the information that we're eliciting on our assets today give us a real forensic insight of what the pattern of investment needs to look like going forward? And how can we do scenarios around that to really understand what would happen, the what if scenarios around climate change, and challenges around adapting our infrastructure? We are a public sector body. We have a funding department. I appreciate that people on this conference may well have a different funding environment and have stakeholders, shareholders. But in this context, this is really around what options are there to contribute to some of the broader agendas. The Department for Transport in the UK has a massive consideration on intermodal shifts and revolutionising that area. Clearly, rail plays its part to that. So how are we contributing? And in a wider societal sense, how are we supporting the economy, social well-being? How can data be made available to our public that we hold that will allow them to extract greater value themselves and economic prosperity? So a real multiplicity of issues going on here. This means it's a business development journey, not a technology program. It's essential we line up around a vision, and we set one 10 years ago and it endures. It's in the top right-hand corner there. It's also essential that we line up business processes and practices. Because we'd broken our organisation down into historical disciplines and across routes and regions, we had a multiplicity of management systems, and we've been through 3 or 4 evolutions of trying to piece that together, and we're still on that journey. As we're doing that, the landscape externally is changing. ISO 55000 has emerged, ISO 19650 has emerged from the PAS series. So it's just critical to get that this isn't a one-step change. This really is business development over the long term. All of this is delivered through people, and the proficiency of our people needs to change. The outlook of our people needs to change. Those they work with and the groups that they work around needs to change. There needs to be a broader understanding of each other's roles, not just perhaps in a project context or in a maintenance context, but how it all comes together surrounding asset management. The individuals and groups need to learn from each other and to help support each other. And sometimes I'd observe that naturally, as humans, we tend to go into our own groups and like to be slightly in competition with one another. Well, clearly we need to make further inroads into that, a shared understanding. Above all else, this can only be underpinned by interoperable data and information. We must give better ready access to that information and knowledge, and we must be honest about the starting position and the challenge we find ourselves in. A little later, Julian is going to talk about the challenges around data architecture, and how all the standards help that. And we've also got a presentation that will be talking about the challenge of migrating from varying technology platforms, trying to reveal a shared single source capability. So how have we moved on these challenges, and what have we done to try and align and improve our? So historically, around about 2010, we did a big piece of work on establishing that vision, and we knew that our data was fragmented and poorly defined, and that at times the data was coarse and there were large gaps. Over the intervening period, we've done a lot of work on that data, the data architecture, and closing critical gaps. We've put the first generation set of standards in and data quality specifications, and in fact we're now on the second generation of those. And we know that that's improved the situation significantly, but we're still some way from our ambition, and there still remains key gaps, and our data remains fragmented. So the work we've got running today is really about how do we take a lot of that historic data and align it? How do we make that consistent and compatible with modern standards, and so it can be interoperable? And how do we forensically use that to verify our data and eliminate gaps and anomalies? And ultimately, over time, how do we perfect that, and how do we end up with a working model of the UK, as you can see on the right-hand side there, denoting our routes and regions? Along the way, of course, there's value to be had in different contexts, but ultimately we're craving that end state where we are geospatially interoperable. We can run more advanced network modelling, and capabilities around digital twins, for example. To do this and to help us with this, really what we want is the products on the right-hand side there, the model of the network, some schematic views, the ability to do things geospatially, and an overall model. We need, though, to line up not just our asset information, but with a whole load of operations data to allow us to do that and to exploit value from those models and digital twins. We therefore need a digital replica, a geospatial infrastructure model. But that of itself is quite a challenge to produce. We need to align not just our data, but with a whole lot of external third-party data. We need to modernise the records that we hold in our asset workbank and registers, do that in a really safe way where we can verify we're not losing any of that insights and we're correctly attributing all of that past data to the relevant location. We've got phenomenally strong project data that comes in using BIM on construction programs. But as I said at the top, that's about 0.7% of the challenge a year. And we've also got a phenomenal array now of different surveying techniques and capabilities that help monitor condition and help give us a real current valued source of repeat knowledge and information that comes in frequently. What's critical in this space naturally is those data standards, those specifications. We've made a lot of inroads to that first challenge, and perhaps the last couple of years have seen a real shift in emphasis to better, broader data quality parameter definition and means to measure and monitor and review that. And the red dotted arrow is really important here. This is about returning knowledge from the collation and alignment piece back into our asset registers so as we can update and improve historical anomalies and gaps. So how are we doing that data collation and alignment piece? We've developed new techniques. This is about the third time though that we've tried this. So we've experimented, pioneered and failed previously. But this is about equipping our routes and regions at a regional level there, the whole of Wales, monitored by in-service trains that have the equipment on there, point cloud data revealed, and real mapping of railway capability coming out. We can plumb into that and align that to established asset registers, and we're building a compendium of machine learned rules that help, as you see on the right hand side there in the red circle, that's an overhead line gantry, and we can verify where that is and its parameters with our domestic records. There's a couple of examples there on trackside equipment as well, lower down, which reflects the same point. Examples of benefits that have come over time there in putting that data together, it's allowed us to deploy new techniques and conventions on monitoring our kit-side equipment like eddy current, and that's allowed us to map that with past knowledge and historical records. And we can pick up anomalies and defects far earlier in the life cycle of the asset. As you see in this stack here for track, the earlier we can pick up at £1 a metre and remedy the problem, the better. Historically, this was done optically and would do well to spot some of those early anomalies and therefore would be forced on occasions to do proportionally more re-railing than is required. And that's £250 a metre. So you can see there that over time, and our models have proven this to be true, we've been able to put in maintenance conventions more effectively and extend the life of our assets. Ultimately, at the moment, that's working out about a £50 million a year saving. Small in the context of a £3.5 billion programme per year, but significant and worth having because it endures. And we're pushing this boundary, not just in track, but in other assets as well. We've shared wider data with society, as we promised to. Studies we do there at the moment shows that there's a latent capability, a latent potential value from that, which is around £2.5 million a year. So we've opened that up, we made that available, and we're looking for additional ways to offer greater value from data that we share, to do that in a safe and secure way, but to do it in a way where people can enjoy the wider benefit from it. So, through all of this journey, what's the key learning and what can we really deduce from it? Well, we must have this vision and strategy. With the benefit of hindsight, that's been surprisingly easy to do and to remain sighted on. Everybody is reasonably enthused about modernising in this space. The challenge comes about how we do it and the need for modernised data standard specifications, data quality definition and management. And I guess when we started this journey, we thought that was a couple of year experience. It's actually taken us about 8 years to really get through the teeth of that to this point. And no doubt we'll learn and we'll go again. We have to do more work and be more effective at overall data architecture management and systems architecture migration. There will be a presentation on that shortly, so I won't go into that further, but that's really critical. And it's been really difficult to keep people on side here. We're talking about trying to effect open heart surgery on an athlete whilst he's running the marathon. We need to keep the railway going. And when we set off on this journey, we said it might take 8 years to complete. People were flabbergasted at how long that was. But as of today, we're 10 years in, and we've probably still got another 10 years to go. So how do you keep that optimism going? How do you generate the pull? And of course, over such a long time scale, you're going to introduce new barriers and challenges. What are the clamour here for the benefits and new players that come into the business? What are they going to do to perturbate and try and deliver things quicker, more expediently? And how might that undermine actually the longer term objective? So don't compromise there. Do look for shorter term value wins, but be aware when you're breaching the configuration or breaking really what you're about. Also be aware that emerging technology and new solutions will pop up along the way, and some of the things that you're backing at the moment won't be around, they'll be obsolete. So you need to be somewhat agile in how you move this program forward, and particularly around new standards. They're great, they're really helping, but they will vary and change from time to time, and we need to reflect the rework that's necessary around that. And overall, this point again about there's a balance to be had. This needs to be well governed, it needs to be inclusive and engaging, there needs to be an aspect of waterfall in it, but also agile. You know, let's recognise things will change along the way, and so you end up with a hybrid governance solution around the two. I hope that's been insightful and useful, and I'll now hand over to Joe and to Julian for their sessions.
Okay, right. Hopefully you can all now see the screen introducing Tim, and hopefully all you enjoyed that presentation. As I say, it came from the Building Smart Virtual Summit that's taken place over the last 2 weeks. Currently the videos are only available to delegates, but I believe that given a few weeks' time, they will make the rest of the presentations publicly available. So if there are other things that you want to go and find out about in terms of building smart, then by all means go and search out those presentations. Right, okay, next then we have view from the chair from Anne. So if I unmute Anne, which, oh, apologies, you unmuted yourself at the same time. Over to you, Anne.
Okay, hello everyone. What a fantastic run of presentations. I think that I probably don't have quite so much to say, which is exactly what we want. I think what it really emphasises is that as the UK BIM Alliance, we do have a lot of people mobilised and active. It's not just about a few individuals, it really is the vision that we had at the start, which was that this would be a movement which is for the industry and by the industry. But I don't think any of us think that we can be blasé or complacent and sit on our hands, because just as the surveyors showed that Andy Bootle went through, it's clear we've got a lot of work still to do. Whether it be the subcontractors or the micro SMEs, the people on the ground, the plumbers, the electricians, who need to be a part of the ecosystem of information flowing. And just as Gordon was pointing out, as those 2 unfortunate builders who were killed with that barn conversion, the information is so important right the way through the whole life of buildings and infrastructure. And the ISO 19650 series and the UK BIM framework is a part of being able to give a better service for society, for the people working in the industry, for the natural environment, as well as for the built environment. I think we've had 2 phenomenal presentations from Gordon and then from Tim as well. And I think it's really illustrating how much progress there has been over the last 10, 15 years but as I say, the challenges that we still face. So to go through some of the activities, as I say, quite a lot of which have already been touched on already, an update on standards. ISO 19650 Part 4 is just about to go out for what's called a draft information standard vote. So it will be coming out to the various national committees around the world for voting for progression. And we've also got another one, which is 12911, which is around developing BIM implementation plans, and that also is progressing to what we call a committee draft. So we've got two activities at the moment which keep us very busy. Nick Nisbet is the author for both of those. I have to say is doing a phenomenal job, both of the writing of input, taking on comments, but once a month and twice for Part 4 and for 12911, there's a call at 8 to 10 in the morning and then 8 to 10 in the evening, where we go through. And what's fantastic about the virtual working we've all been experiencing over the year is that we're getting so much better collaboration around the world with the development of the standards, whether it be Australia, Singapore, China, Chile, Peru, the States, Canada. We're covering a lot of ground now from our homes, and the conversations are really enlightening with that. So the international standards are moving, as Gordon says. I'm very hopeful that we'll be initiating Part 6, the health and safety. But what is really pleasing is that we are, with Gordon's help and with that Zain Ulrach, developing guidance for the existing 1192, because it clearly is, just as Tim has picked up as well as Gordon, health and safety has to be high on our priorities. Linked to what has also been discussed around IFC and COBE with Building Smart, the BIM Expert Interoperability Working Group, who we've reported on previously, has been extremely busy over this past year. And if I may, I think one of the things I would like to pick on is that we're looking at a standard information approach for things like net zero and golden thread. So some of those position papers that we were talking about earlier and product data. The golden thread is moving at pace at the moment with MHCLG, BAE's, Health and Safety Executive, all working together in response to the Grenville disaster and the Hackett report. I'll actually be appearing along with Armin Sharma and Hal Davis to Dame Hackett and the ISF group to present on how we're using the UK BIM framework along with IFC and the Housing Association data standards. So a lot of collaboration going on and some phenomenal progress. But I think what we want to be doing, and Sarah picked up really well within the guidance report, is that clearly we've got very extensive guidance now going into a lot of technical detail, but it needs to be accessible, it needs to be understandable to a very wide range of interested parties across the whole of the industry. So what we want to be doing is building, for instance, on the community's work around BIM back to basics, but also then looking at the guidance, how can we make it more user-friendly, if you like. So certainly what I would be encouraging is this is a complete open house. If anybody would like to get involved and help with authoring or feedback, please get in touch because the more people who can be giving us insights and ideas, the better, and will help us to succeed in reaching to far more people than currently looking at the BIM business as usual that was reflected in the survey. We continue to work with Centre Digital Built Britain, as I say, with the interoperability piece, but also as we move forward with the UK BIM framework, clearly it is getting more exposure and profile. So the construction playbook, there's 14 policies which are cited in there, which are now, and it does use the word mandate, but it's really that very firmly are being told that you should use it unless there's a really good reason not to. UK BIM framework is one of those, and it's for the public sector and what they call the arm's length bodies also are being asked to actually embrace this. So there is more and more pressure actually as we go forward to make sure that UK BIM framework really is serving the needs of the whole of the industry. We're working towards the UK BIM framework being handed over completely to industry by the autumn of 2022. So we're anticipating that we will be working closely with Centre Digital Built Britain on enabling that over the next year. I'll certainly be looking to update you on that at the next forum, because I would be anticipating some significant progress in that regard. I think then finally what I would like to impress on you is that you'll have heard that we are looking to recruit an admin assistant and a finance officer. These are part-time roles. They would be paid roles. You'll understand that the UK BIM Alliance is very much dependent on its patrons to be able to move forward. We have been making significant savings over this last year because of running virtually, but as I say, we are looking to gear up because we need to be able to support the UK BIM framework more and more as we go forward, as well as continuing the other activities of the Alliance. And so the other thing I would like to say is you'll be aware that the exec, the communities, the affiliates, the ambassadors, all of this is run pro bono with voluntary effort. It is absolutely open for anybody to come forward and volunteer. We would welcome you absolutely with open arms. There is a lot to be accomplished. I hope that the presentations today reflect that. But also we want to make sure that we're resilient as well. So we do need to be looking at succession planning. Not only for the fact that we want to be resilient in case anything happens to any of us, or if we want to be moving on or retiring or whatever, but also for fresh blood as well, fresh ideas and so forth. So again, if you'd like to get further involved, do let us know. We are actively looking. We encourage people to come forward to have new blood on exec and so forth. I would also say none of us are going to be running away at all. We do love what we're doing. It is a great team, but that doesn't mean that we don't want new blood people coming forward and saying, actually, I'd like to have a go. So please don't hesitate. I think you would thoroughly enjoy it. It can be hard work, but it is a great environment to be working in. So I think that's enough from me now as an update. As I say, I think the previous speakers have done such a great job, and I'd like to hand back to Duncan for Q&A, please.
Thank you very much, Anne. Okay, so yes, questions and answers. I believe Jason, well, no, I don't believe, I know Jason has been doing a great job in the background answering questions as they've been coming in, but I'm going to hand over to him now to lead on this for ones where we do need the panelists to respond. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Duncan. Yeah, there's been a few come in which have been answered, but there's one here that I'd like to put to the panel, please. Might generate a bit of discussion. A few might like to input. The question here, which is, could we have some guidance on how to create the health and safety file using BIM? This is a current issue on our contract. The default is that we should simply use a PDF document, so hardly ideal. So there might be a couple of people that might like to input on this. Perhaps first of all, Sarah, maybe you've got a view on the health and safety file, the O&M manuals that are produced using BIM.
Goodness, I would say the first thing is that think about how information is most appropriately presented to your client, how they are going to be able to actually use that information, rather than maybe down into that information in the form of a geometrical model. So I think it's, especially with health and safety information, it's absolutely fundamental that the client can actually access it and can do something with it. So my starting point would be to be having discussions with the client to understand what their capability is around that, being able to access that information, if that makes sense. Now they might not, they clients have are just like we are mature around this to different extents. So it might be something that you have to work through with them, rather than anticipating them being able to give you a direct detailed response to that. That would be my suggestion.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. I think it might also extend beyond the obligation, the actual requirement, which is to provide the basic information for the O&M manual, which I think still is in hard copy. But as you say, using information for facilities management and asset management should definitely be discussed at the start, because that might be something different. So I think there's two things here. There's the useful information, if we can call it that. I don't mean to disrespect the official stuff, but then you've got the official formal requirements from the HSE standards that say you must provide the basic stuff here, and that's probably what is being referenced here. That still is a PDF. So perhaps we need to look at the guidance on that to get into what that's actually asking for.
I think that's you hit the nail on the head. But I was going to say, Jason, in terms of, I think there's that uncomfortable change, isn't there, from asking and delivering a traditional O&M and then moving to the digital elements and the data sets. And I think many clients are still, and understandably, in the position of, well, let's just get that traditional one and then we'll ask for the other stuff as well as an addition, and there's a duplication of effort there. But I think there's SFT, Scottish Futures Trust, have done some really good work looking at O&M in the sort of modern aspect, and I think that's something we can learn and bring potentially into the guidance ahead. It's a really good shout.
Great. Okay, thanks, Andy, for following up there. Just a couple of other questions which I'll just go through, because they've been answered directly to people asking them, but useful information is right here. One, can the UK BIM Alliance run some webinars delivered by subcontractors and landscape architects, etc., that have successfully implemented BIM to showcase the benefits to them? So that's a great segue really into initiative that we're just running within the community's leadership team, which is the Back to BIM Basics series. These will be a series of interviews that we are conducting with people across all disciplines and backgrounds, including landscape architects, contractors, suppliers, that sort of thing. And this will go some way to answering those questions, and I believe will be due for release probably early May. Just the final question here, which has also been answered directly to the person, is where can I locate guidance notes for clients writing an employee's information requirement? So anybody out there that's looking to support their clients, where do I start? How do I write an EIR? Andy, as you kindly answered this one for us, is go to the UK BIM Framework, so that's ukbimframework.org, within the standards and guidance, and the guidance in Part D deals with the information requirements.
Jason, can I just pop in there, please?
Please do, please.
So, just to say also that if you are drafting information requirements, there is also an Airtable example on the UK BIM Framework website, which is quite a useful resource to look at, and you can export the data from there in different formats as well. So it's definitely worth looking at Guidance D, going taken the time to read that, but then looking at the appendices and then looking at that supporting database as well.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Sarah. Okay, so I think that brings us to the end of our session. Thank you very much to all of the speakers, and thank you very much for Duncan as well, particularly as you've covered a lot of things that you didn't know you were doing 10 minutes before we started. So well done there, and thank you to everybody taking part.
Okay, thank you, Jason. A couple of bits just actually probably just on that Q&A of thoughts on mine. We do now have the Landscape Institute as an affiliate. They have an established BIM group within the Landscape Institute, so I'm sure there will be opportunities to get them involved and try and get information out to people that is specific to landscape professionals. And then previously, people with a long memory will remember that there was a specific group called BIM for SMEs. Now that group doesn't exist in its current format, anymore. But what has happened is that several of the BIM4 community groups are now having SME focus groups within them. So not just a general SME group that's trying to cover all aspects of the construction life cycle of an asset, but actually looking at the SME's role within specific areas. So things like, I'm pretty sure it's BIM for housing is one, that is looking at that in the context of a housing thing. So it's a much more focused area. So if there are SMEs out there that are wanting to understand and get information, then please do get in touch. Probably the communities at UKBIMAlliance.org website, email address, or go onto our website and we can take it forward from there. Okay, I have a last couple of slides now that Pam has in the main deck. So the first one, as always, is get involved, volunteer today. Let me just see how this is going to be. Right, those are all the various points. So as Anna's said, we'll echo this, that there are lots of ways to get involved with the Alliance through all those various mediums that are on the screen here. But yes, we're always looking for new views, new ideas, or help to make BIM business as usual more explainable, more comprehensible to each and every trade professional and body within the built asset life cycle. That is definitely all our slides, so I would like to echo Jason's thanks. So thank you to Will, to Sarah, to Andy and Casey for their updates, to Gordon for his presentation, Tim for the video presentation, and Anne for her update. I would also like to thank Jason for doing a sterling amount of work in the background to make this all work smoothly for me as I sit here and work out what to do and press the buttons. And Pam must get thanks for having put this all together and make it so easy for the rest of us to just press buttons and make it work this afternoon. That is the end of the forum for this afternoon. So thank you very much for everybody that's attended. Our next forum will be taking place on the 29th of June this year. Okay, thank you very much and good afternoon. I hope you can enjoy the sunshine. Cheers, bye.